Welcome to another Introscope session. Today we're going to go over classes. Now, a class is basically a blueprint or template for creating objects, and a class can contain methods, constructors, private instance variables, and other things that we're not going to cover in this video. And an object is basically an instance, or what we simply put, a real-world representation of a class. So let's say we have a class that is named dog. If you're going to create an object, then you're going to create a specific instance or real-world representation of that dog. So maybe a Labrador Retriever could be a dog object. And in this class, it can contain methods, or basically actions and behaviors. And for example, they can include the methods bark, sleep, run, drink, etc. And these methods basically provide the actions or behaviors that the dog is going to undergo. And the variables, or the private instance variables rather, can include age, color, breed, etc. And to exemplify this, here is a picture. So we have the class dog, and notice here these are the private instance variables right here: breed, size, age, color. These are the methods: eat, sleep, sit, and run. And whenever you invoke excuse me, one of these methods, the dog is essentially going to act out these methods or perform these behaviors. And these instance variables are provided so that they give the dog the characteristics. So this dog object, or this instance of a dog, has these characteristics, or these private instance variables that are initialized. Its breed is Neapolitan Mastiff, and its size is large, age 5 years, color black. And here's another dog, another instance of the dog class, and it has its own private instance variables, and this one also does as well. So the class is, just to give an overview, this class is named dog. These are the private instance variables, which give them its characteristics. And these are the methods that provide the dogs with its actions and behaviors. Now, constructors are special methods in the class that basically instantiate these objects. And the goal of these constructors is to initialize these private variables right here: breed, size, age, and color. And depending on the situation, these constructors can contain parameter values, unless it is what we call a default constructor. And note that the private instance variables can only be accessed within the dog class. So no other class, or no other no other class, such as maybe a cat, can access these specific private instance variables. So the class dog, as we see here, has these private instance variables, and these give attributes to your class. And how do we name a constructor? The unique aspect about a constructor is that the name of the constructor must be the same as the name of your class. And you write public, and then you add the name of your class. So if we were to write a constructor in order to create another object, whenever you want to create another object, you need to call the constructor method, which we will show you an example later. But as I said before, if you wanted to create a new dog object, you would simply write public dog. That would be the constructor, and then you would do dog. Let's say you wanted to name it Bob. Dog Bob equals new dog, parentheses. And note that constructors will not have a return type, as with some other methods like void. It will not have a return type because you don't see it being one of the methods that either contains one of the data types, such as string or maybe another object. But for now, you just need to know that there is no return type for a constructor. Continuing constructors, they may or may not take in parameters, and a default constructor is the one that does not take in parameters. So for example, if the constructor was public dog, then just parentheses, and note that this is how you name a constructor. This will allow you to create a default dog every time you call this constructor or create a new dog object. Whereas a custom constructor, they do take in parameters. So for example, public dog, int weight, double age, and string name. And this will allow you to pass in a custom dog of your choice, and its weight, age, and name. So for example, in another file, if I wanted to create another dog named John, then I would write dog John equals new dog, and then pass in whatever I want. And note that order is very important here. If you pass in 25 here, it'll correspond to the dog's weight. 4.5 will correspond to the dog's age, and John will correspond to the dog's name. And this will be how you create a new dog object. So here's how you call the constructor in your runner file, in what we call a runner file. So let's say you had a file named dog runner, and you wanted to create your very own pet dog. So what you would do is you would put the name of the class, and then you would name whatever. Let's say the class was dog, and you wanted to name it whatever you want, and your favorite dog name is Billy. Then you would put this equal sign, new dog, parentheses. And after this line, basically what you are doing is you are calling the constructor method, the default constructor method, and it will create a new dog, a very own dog for you that takes on these default characteristics. Or better yet, if you wanted to pass in some parameters and specify the dog's weight, age, and name, then you would put parameters. So you would put 25, 4.5, and Billy here, and then it'll call the custom constructor and create a custom dog for you. That is your very own special, unique dog that you created with its own special characteristics. And you are creating a new object of that class, so you're creating a new dog. And another example is if you had a class named car, and you wanted to create your very own car, or a new car object, then you would simply write car, and then whatever name you want. In this case, it would be Mercedes equals new car, and this is the default car. So let's say the default car has a red as its color, and it has, let's say, 4 wheels, and it costs $250,000 or something like that. If you wanted to create your own custom, again, you would pass in your very own parameters, and let's say car Lambo equals new car, and then you pass in your own parameters that takes in the price, the color, and then the max speed. So here we can see constructors being used in action. If we had a class named person, and we have a private instance variable, a string called gender, and this will characterize the person by providing it with its gender every time. You're going to create the constructor, public person, parentheses, and this is the default constructor. So every time, let's say you don't pass anything in and you create a new person, then every time the gender would be initialized to male. So the person will always be male if you create just a default person. But let's say you wanted to create another person that is not necessarily male, but in this case it is, because his name is Michael. Then you would put the class name, which is person, right here, the object name, which is Michael, or whatever name you want, equals new person. And then in this case there would be another constructor down here that allows you to pass in the name and then, let's say, the age. And this will call the constructor, the custom constructor. So these two are linked in that every time you you do this statement, it'll call the constructors. And Michael 25, there will be some other variables that allow you to give these characteristics to that person you created. That'll be it for classes and constructors. I hope you had a thorough you have a thorough understanding of classes and constructors. If not, make sure to visit the practice page, or you can always use the real-time chat to cover up subjects that you want more practice with. That being said, hope you check out some other videos. That'd be it for today.